believes I can't sleep.
It's time to listen to Courtney at last on the Ramblings of an Insomniac podcast.
Howdy. Hello. How are you? Welcome to another episode of the Ramblings of an Insomniac. I am Courtney. How are you? How are you? Honestly, how are you navigating through life these days? Have you been feeling uplifted and hopeful? Have you been feeling depressed and anxious? Are you feeling just kind of meh? You don't know really if you feel good, bad, you're kind of indifferent, you're kind of numb, kind of jaded. Are you feeling happy, excited? Honestly, I think, it's a roller coaster. I get so down on myself because one minute I'm like, man, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, I'm so happy to be alive. I'm focused on that positive energy, focused on the good, focused on what I have, focused on what is good. And then the next minute I'm like, fuck you, fuck everyone. Life sucks and I'm pessimistic and I'm pissed off and I don't know if I'm bipolar or just human. So, kind of want to discuss that today. The whole, is it bipolar? Is it just human? Are we just human because our emotions are kind of all over the place? Must be knock it off. Wait. Am I crazy because I feel like I'm kind of up and down? And I guess it kind of boils down to, in one given day, how many emotions do I go through? And then I'm like, well, maybe that's just being a woman. Women are emotional creatures. We are full of all kinds of hormones that are just going bananas. They're all over the place. And depending on what stage of life we're in, if we are a preteen, if we're a teenager, if we are menopausal, or maybe we just genuinely have some shit going on. Maybe we're an empath and we just feel a lot of emotions already, so then it feels extra. Or maybe we're bipolar. I don't know how someone gets diagnosed with it because I don't know. Again, you never know if it's just like ADD. I was diagnosed with ADD by 3 different doctors and 2 different counselors. And I have a very, very long, lengthy history in my report cards and all of that of good student talks too much. Good student can't focus. Good student can't focus. And I used to be like, well, that's just called being a kid. No child, especially like a toddler or an elementary school, we don't focus really. That's just kind of, we're all over the place. But for me, it was more like I really could focus. Actually, I could put 120% of my energy into something and I could do that for hours. But then I'm over here doing something else for hours. And then I'm over here doing something else for hours. And then pretty soon I've got like 5 projects that I have been focusing on in a 24-hour period. And none of them are, well, actually, I do finish. I obsess and I finish, especially if it's like cleaning or organizing or like doing errands or whatever. But I think the ADD just comes from like, I cannot watch TV and necessarily just watch TV. I have to be doing several things at the same time, like cleaning or looking up something on the internet or writing something. But again, I'm like, is that ADD? But then I look and I'm like, well, I talk a lot. And then there are many, many times where I don't finish projects at all. I'm cleaning in one part of my house and I'm organizing in one part of my house. And then I drift over and I see something else that needs to be cleaned in another area or organized in another area of my home. And I start that project. And this is in one day. And pretty soon, in the matter of one day, I've got like 4 different projects that I have started and never finished. And same with emotions. So does that make me ADD? Or I'll be In general, I'll do that. I'll just spin around in circles trying to decide what I'm going to do in a day. And pretty soon the day is almost over. And I'm like, what the fuck have I achieved today? What have I accomplished? And sometimes it's a lot. I go crazy. I think that's like the OCD type A in me. There are times that I achieve so much, it's like I'm on crack. It's like I have shot up with cocaine and I am just like, woo! And I get 1,000 things done and I do them well. I complete them, they're finished, I follow through. That is how I am most of the time. But then there are days that I sit there and I spin in circles and I have a million projects going and I don't finish any of them. Or I'll do that at work. I'll have several projects going and then all of a sudden it's almost time to get off work and I'm like, oh my God, I just started all of these projects. I started organizing over here and phone call, got interrupted during my tangent. Anyway, what was I talking about? I was discussing ADD. How do you know? How do you know if you're bipolar or ADD and not just hormonal and, or a teenager or going through something or whatever? I don't know. What I do know is I'm trying, I really am, to just state, again, I think it's about consistency. How often do your moods change and what causes your moods to change? Is it slight little things and then your whole mood changes? Are you really sensitive to life in general and the environment? Um, I consider myself an empath, and they say that empaths usually come from people who have had like traumatic childhoods, and it's kind of their way of coping because they've had to learn to be highly observant of people around them and highly observant of, watching people and watching their emotions and seeing what type of emotions they do and reading body language because for your own self, to preserve your own self because you don't know if these people are going to lash out at you or hurt you or whatever. So you have to be aware of their mannerisms. You have to be very in tune with their emotions and their mannerisms because you're like, oh, I got to watch for this and I have to look for that to see if that's going to cue aggression or, if that's going to cue an outburst of some sort. And is my safety going to be at risk? And you learn to just kind of, again, I think I should be a detective because I'm very hyper aware of my surroundings. No matter where I am, I really learn the lay of the land. And there's a situation that happened with a friend of mine, and I started noticing I whenever, especially if I live like in an apartment complex, for example, I learn what cars are normal, what people are normal, what things are normal. And it's not because I'm a Karen and I'm trying to be nosy. It really isn't. I learn who my neighbors are and who goes where when. Again, not because I'm trying to be a stalker or be nosy or because I care. It's I want to know what's normal so I know what's out of place. And if there is something that is out of place, then I want to be aware of it and see if that thing is a threat. And I honestly think neighbors should thank people like me because it is people like me that'll notice if someone, is going to break into their house or has broken into their house or if someone is missing or something is different that is pertinent to, maybe the police are looking for something and I could be the neighbor that's like, this was out of place. Again, not because I'm being some nosy person. It's because I unfortunately came from a background in which I needed to be very aware of my surroundings and what was going on. And so I notice when things are out of place or not normal. I know when things are moved. Also, I'm OCD and type A, and I like things organized and in place. I used to work at Job Corps, and my students would play this game where they would bet how long it would take me to notice if they moved like the stapler or if they moved, something on my desk, even just a, couple of millimeters. They'd be like, okay, let's see how long it takes for Courtney to notice this thing has been moved. Because I like things in its place. I feel like everything has a place, I like things organized. And what's weird is I don't like clean lines and modern. I don't like things all, really rigid. I don't like rigid and sterile. I don't want things to look like Kim Kardashian, where her whole inside is like beige and there's just nothing. Like, I don't like a lot of stuff. I don't like knickknacks. I can't stand a bunch of knickknacks. I can't stand a bunch of dust collecting crap because to me it just looks chaotic and disorganized. But I do love a whole boatload of plants and a whole boatload of artwork all over the walls. I want just artwork all over the walls. I want a lot of plants. And I want my place to feel homey and inviting and warm. And I like a few knickknacks here and there if there are things that are really important. Like my mom passed away. She collected elephants. So I have some of her like marble or jade little elephants all over. Stuff like that. But I feel like when your house is chaotic, your brain's chaotic. At least for me, I'll say that for me. I feel like my brain is disorganized when my house is disorganized. So I notice things. So point being, I notice when people or cars are different. And I noticed this gentleman that just seemed out of place. There was something about him, and I went to go get my mail, and he just seemed, I don't know, he just seemed like he didn't belong there. And there was a car, and people are like, well, that could have been maybe one of your neighbors had a friend over, and that was their car. And I'm like, I don't know, something just felt weird and out of place about it. And I was right. It was the FBI, and they were surveilling somebody. And they ended up kicking down that person's house and ruining their life over something that was not true and completely false. And they had to do 5 years in prison, 3 years of pre-trial, being on pre-trial probation and having to wear an ankle monitor and not being able to leave the state and having a curfew, having to be home at a certain time and not being able to go to certain businesses and having their entire life destroyed and ruined and reputation destroyed and all of their plans ruined over something they did not do. And then spent 5 years in prison for something they did not do. And then 3 more years of being on probation, not being able to leave the state. This time not having to wear an ankle monitor and not having a curfew. But if they want to leave the state, they have to get permission. And it ruined their lives and it ruined their families' lives. And that person was me. I noticed this strange person and I kept kind of paying attention and I would see them periodically and I just thought this seems odd and I'd see the car periodically and then one day you know how you go to use internet if you've never been to someone's house or to a restaurant or a business before and you want to use their Wi-Fi and you look up connecting to the Wi-Fi and it'll say the names and I went to do that at my own house because my Wi-Fi was being weird and I see it says FBI surveillance. Well, this is long after I'd already noticed this weird car and had already been noticing this weird person. Long after that, and it says FBI surveillance. And I laughed because I thought there's no way in hell the real FBI, the actual real FBI, is going to name their internet FBI surveillance because how fucking stupid, how dumb do you have to be? But apparently they're dumb. They did. Excuse me. And my then 16-year-old son with autism was at the house. I had just left for work and my then fiance was at the house and was out walking our dog. And all of a sudden they surrounded him like a fucking SWAT team, kicked him down to the ground. And then while my son was upstairs, literally kicked down our door and thought that we had done something that they didn't. And then held a gun to my 16-year-old's head, went through everything, trashed everything, confiscated anything that had to do with the internet. And we had many lawyers that had met my fiance and met my son, and they were like, there's no way in hell that they did this. They don't fit the profile. They had to do extensive psychological evaluations. And by 3 different psychiatrists, not counselors, not knocking on counselors. There's nothing wrong with a counselor. I've gone to counselors. I'm just saying these are psychiatrists. 3 of them all said, no, don't fit the profile. But he was accused of all kinds of, he was accused of downloading basically child porn. But what had happened was we didn't have internet at the time, and we wanted to watch this show called Top Shot, and I was obsessed with it. And we had downloaded it from a torrent site, and the file that we downloaded, they even admitted that had the child porn in it. They admitted, it's in the paperwork, that we did not open. We didn't even know it was there. We had no idea it was embedded. It was embedded in this illegally downloaded show. Granted, we did illegally download the show, but it was a show, and we didn't have any clue that was in there. Well, because that file came from a different state, they got him with basically international child porn. Well, at the time, the bitch of an FBI was on a kick. And again, even the attorney that we had said, yeah, she's just kind of out for men, basically. She was on, it was during the whole Me Too movement. It really was. It was during the whole Me Too movement. But they had my fiance so scared shitless to plead guilty because of the fact that it was during the Me Too movement. And they were basically going to say, if you go through it, they hear child porn, and they're already like, well, he did it. I'm sure he did. And then he would have had to do 20 years in prison. And they're like, but if you say no contest, you'll only, quote, quote, only have to do 5 years in prison. Well, at the time, Jeff Sessions had just made, literally like that month, had just made it a mandatory minimum for child porn. And even the judge even said, I don't feel like there's any evidence. This is definitely not beyond a reason of a doubt at all, especially because this particular file was downloaded all in Spanish, 100% in Spanish, which we don't speak. But he said, unfortunately, we just now got where it's a mandatory minimum. I can't do less. I cannot do any less. I have to do the minimum. And the minimum it was 5 years at the time. And my poor fiance's entire life was ruined from that point on. And he has, again, seen 3 psychiatrists and had to do extensive evaluations. And even our pre-trial, pre-probation person was like, I've been doing this for 30 years. You do not fit the profile. I don't think that you did this. And then his attorney, same thing. But our government, being our government, has a way of strong-arming you and scaring the shit out of you and leading you to believe that if you don't plead no contest, you're going to spend 20 years in prison. So he pled no contest, and it ruined our fucking lives. It ruined it because it ruined our relationship. It ruined him as a person, because altogether, when this is all said and done, it'll be 13 years of his life that's been completely dictated by something he didn't do. 5 years in prison, 3 years before he went to prison, and 3 to 5 years, depending on many things, when he can apply for his probation to be lifted. So it'll be 3 to 5 years after. So it'll be 11 to 13 years of his life that has been dictated by something that he didn't do, which causes a lot of psychological damage. That causes a lot of psychological damage, especially because his mom passed away right before he went to prison, and he wasn't really allowed to go visit a lot because you have to get permission. We couldn't have his nieces and nephews. We couldn't have his nephews over. We couldn't have my family over. It was just this whole thing. He couldn't get a job because no one's going to want to hire someone that they think that did something so monstrous as that. And he did not do it. He's totally innocent, very innocent. And who's going to hire him? And at the time, he had just got accepted to go back to OSU. He is just a few credits shy of getting his degree, and he's an extraordinarily intelligent person with a lot to offer, and he had a great job and was going to school. He was going to school and working, and then applied and had to talk to the dean at OSU, and the dean said, yeah, we want you back. And then he got thrown into jail and then got slapped with an ankle monitor. And that careened him into a whole thing that has fucked with him ever since. And he's not the same person mentally. He's not the same person physically. He's a hot mess, and I don't blame him. I would be too. We are a hot mess. We have had to go through a lot. My son, the 16-year-old, is a hot mess. When you have a gun pointed to your head and you are forced to talk about graphic things, they ask you very graphic questions, and you're being in your house, your door has been kicked down by the FBI and your house has been raided, that's going to leave a mark on anybody, let alone a 16-year-old kid with autism. I wasn't there. I was at work. This was happening while I was at work. And so I guess my point is, when people go through trauma and our emotions are all over the place, is it because we've suffered trauma? Is it because we are bipolar? Is it because we are crazy? What is it? And when you've gone through a lot of trauma, does that make you a little more sensitive to things and so you freak out a little easier? I don't know. I know that when life is happening around you, it can make you emotional. And you can be in a good mood 1 minute and thankful 1 minute and positive 1 minute, and then all of a sudden, you're not. Something sets you off. And again, I don't know if that's bipolar. I don't know if that's just when you've had a life, kind of a shitty life, you're always waiting for that ball to drop. You're kind of waiting for the bad. You're like, oh, my life's good right now, but. But you don't want to live like that. You want to, while you're having a good life, you want to be like absorbing it and being happy with that and taking that in and enjoying it and being like, this is where I am today. Right now, today is happy. And they say, when you exude happiness and you think about happiness and you focus on the good and you focus on the positive, then positive things happen around you. It's cause and effect. If you act positive and believe in positivity, you will see positivity, you will notice positivity, and therefore you will be a positive person. When you focus on the negative, you'll be negative. But again, we are not robots, and sometimes we're going to cry, and sometimes we're going to yell, and sometimes we're going to be negative and complain. We just can't live in that state. We can't live in the negativity. So I don't know what I am. I don't know if I'm an empath and I just feel people's emotions. And if other people are going through it and other people are sad or negative, I feel that and then I become that. I don't know if I'm bipolar. I don't know. I just know I get frustrated when I start out the day and I'm like, all right, it's going to be a good day. Yes. And I'm all chipper and I'm like, hey, how are you? And like birds are singing, and it's like a cartoon where little bluebirds are chirping and birds are landing on your finger and the sun is out and deer are dancing around you, And then somehow along the way you're like, and pretty soon you're just flipping people off inside. You're not actually, doing it, but you're thinking about flipping everybody off. I hate that. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be all over the place. I want to stay happy and positive. I'm working on it. I'm trying. And I'm trying to do it without medication because I think there are plenty of things out there that are not in a pill that can help you. But again, not against people that are taking medication. I'm not against medication. I think it has its purpose. Everybody needs to decide for themselves if they want to take medication or do things the natural way or both. Maybe you're doing certain things natural and other things you're medicating yourself. I don't know. For me, I try to stay away from medication. I try to stay away from big pharma. I think that it's far more. I think that like 1% of the medication out there actually does good without causing super horrible side effects. And I think we all have different brain chemistry. We are all made up differently. And of course, what works for me may not work for you and vice versa. So I definitely believe in medication. If you're like schizophrenic, I don't know that there's a natural way to help schizophrenia. I definitely think there are certain conditions out there where you probably need to take actual medication. But I try to steer clear of that if I can. And if it doesn't work again, I think you have to do something for a long time to decide if it's going to work or not. You can't just take a pill for a day or try something natural for a day or a week or even a month and expect it to change your life. has to be in your system for a couple of months. You have to have routine. You have to build up that routine to see if it's going to work for you. And maybe it's a combination of stuff. I don't get sleep. I'm an insomniac, so I'm sure not getting sleep is going to very much. I'm sure it does. It does. It is. It has. It has messed with my emotions. It does mess with my emotions. It does mess with my life, and has a huge impact. Sleep is that's a huge impact on your life. How much sleep you get, how little of sleep you get. It causes a lot of health issues if you don't get sleep. One of which is being emotional and, unstable. So, exercise, sunshine, drugs, people you're around, your job, all of that affects your life. And it's how you decide to handle life around you. That's up to you, but don't be hard on yourself if you have days where you're all over the place. Don't be hard on yourself if one day, in 1 day's time, you're happy, sad, angry, thankful, tired, and feeling it all. Because again, we're humans and sometimes we're going to be out there. We're going to be all over the place. It's hard to be a human. That's why I like the show The Good Place, when the judge, I forgot her name, she's on Saturday Night Live and she's on Bridesmaids. But at first she's kind of being harsh on the humans, like basically like how hard is to be human? It can't be that hard to be a good person. Like just have morals and ethics, and how hard can that be? And then she goes down to earth and she's like, holy shit, you're right. Like there are so many gray areas, and there's so much to a human. There's a lot about morals and ethics, and there's so much that goes into it, and it's not black and white. It is not like you're a good person or you're a bad person. There's so much more to being a good person or a bad person. There is you can't just go, this person's good, this person's bad, because there's a lot to it. Sometimes it's like maybe they just did a bad thing. Maybe they had bad judgment one time. Maybe there's so much to being a human, and it's hard to navigate. There's so many factors, and there could be times where you really are a good person and you have a bad day, and in that day you are just crabby to people and you don't treat people well. Does that make you a bad person? I don't think so. So I'm trying to navigate this whole thing because I'm kind of all over the place. I don't know. I don't know if I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm just kind of feeling it. I'm tired. I'm exercising my dogs. And I started out in a good mood because I'm like, I'm going to chill out today and have the first day of just relaxing, staying in my pajamas and just kind of being a couch potato because I'm tired and I've earned it. I've worked overtime and yeah. And then I got all cranky because those plans changed and I realized I had obligations and things that I needed to do. And I tried to just be like, you know what? I'm doing it. It doesn't do any good to cry about it and whine about it. It's out of my control. I need to do it. So let's just get on board and have a positive attitude. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. Yeah, go team. And then I just kept getting cranky and falling into that cranky thing. And I'm like, I need to stop for a minute and take a breath. Like I always preach, stop, take a breath, realize what I can control, realize what I can't, and just, make the best out of what I have to do and not complain about it because it doesn't resolve anything. So that's where I'm at today. I'm throwing the ball from my dogs, focusing on how adorable they are, focusing on the good, and then I'm going to allow myself a little cranky time. I'm not doing it to others. I'm keeping it kind of to myself. I'm not going around being a creep to everybody else. And that's what I'm going to do. So if you're in that mood, kind of where you're all over the place, that's okay. It happens. We don't have to be Miss Mary Sunshine, Mr. Mary Sunshine every moment of every day. Again, as long as you're not living in that negative space, as long as you're not Eeyore and just completely living in that negativity. So that's been on my mind. And then what else? I've noticed I was listening to Matt Walsh and we have another case of basically like Amber Heard. We have another Amber Heard case. Women really need, not just women and men, people need to stop making false accusations. False accusations, especially about rape and being sexually harassed, are a bunch of bullshit because unfortunately it's very hard to prove, especially if you're not saying anything about it until, weeks, months, or whatever later. It makes it hard to prove because it's hearsay. But there definitely needs to be punishment. There needs to be accountability for those that make false claims, those that file false police reports. I had a teacher that got accused of sexually harassing a student. Now, that student had some issues already. They had kind of done this a lot. They had already accused their stepdad and different people of doing this, and no one took that into consideration. She never had any evidence or anything to prove that all these people, these multiple people, had sexually harassed her. But it didn't stop her from accusing those people of it and ruining their lives, because let's face it, when men in particular get accused of raping someone, and then even if the person that accused them said, just kidding, I just said it to get attention, I just said it to ruin their life, I just said it to get money, just kidding, didn't happen, no one remembers that part. No one remembers, remember the person that was accused of this and then were innocent, found innocent? No, people just remember, remember the person that was accused of rape? Period. End of sentence. They don't ever, ever, ever remember. Remember when they were found innocent and they did not do it and the person was lying and just said it for attention? Nobody remembers that part. That's why I love that Johnny Depp took Amber Heard to court and she got annihilated, as well as she should. You shouldn't try knowing that you're a woman, and if you play all innocent and you attack a celebrity, he has money and stuff, and that usually women get it. And that whole Me Too movement takes away from people that were actually for real, genuinely molested or raped. I really feel for those that are actually part of a movement. It shouldn't even be a movement. It's a group, it's people who were unfortunately sexually abused, molested, raped, and truly that happened to them. It takes away from those people. And when you try to become a me too, that whole thing just really annoyed me and rubbed me the wrong way. I'm all about bringing awareness. Bringing awareness to a just cause is fantastic. But when you're using that to get attention and you're using it to hurt somebody else and ruin somebody else's life, you're just an absolute shitball. You're a bad person. You are a shitty, bad, diabolical, evil person, because you are making it where that person is not going to be able to find a job again, or at least not a good one. In my teacher's case, he and his wife got divorced. He lost his job. He lost his credibility. So he had no way to make money, because who the fuck is going to hire him? Even when the girl was like, never mind, just kidding. No one's going to be like, we can't risk hiring this teacher that was accused of this thing. And even though he was exonerated of it, we don't want the liability and the risk of that. So no one's going to want to hire him now. And he lost his fucking, he and his wife got separated because this person didn't say just kidding until months later. And now, granted, maybe they were already having problems in their marriage and that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Maybe they were already going to get divorced. But his name was in the paper, and I'm from a smaller town. Everybody knows everybody. And again, people just think of this teacher and they're like, remember when he was accused of this? Again, people don't go, remember when he was accused of this and found innocent? So he didn't have money and he lost his credibility, his reputation, and his wife, because if some girl decided that she didn't get enough attention or she has something mentally wrong with her and didn't get the counseling that she needed, or maybe her parents didn't do their job, or maybe it was a combination of all these things. Maybe she has something mentally wrong with her. Her parents didn't do their job. Who knows? But those people should 100% be in jail. That should be jail time, because it is far, far, far too easy for people to go around accusing somebody of something that cannot be proved. It is hearsay. The only way you can prove rape, and that is if you go right after it's happened and somebody does a rape kit and they test for that kind of stuff. And even then, we don't know for positive, because maybe it was still consensual sex. There are so many factors, and there are people that have been raped. And I feel bad for those that actually go through this, because those that just like to be diabolical and ruin people's lives and accuse someone of something are taking away from those that actually had that happen to them. And that's not okay. It wouldn't happen if there was actual accountability. Just like those that go around stealing and taking all of the crap out of these stores to where stores are having to shut down because California and certain states are like, we are told we can't do anything about it. We're told we have to just watch as it happens. So now people do it. So now people steal because they're allowed to steal. Just like people from other countries have been threatening us and trying to bully us because we allow it under the Biden administration. We allow it to happen. We've given them money. We have kowtowed to them. We have bent the knee. And now they're like, America, what a bunch of suckers. What a bunch of wusses. What a bunch of pansies. They don't follow through. They just give us money and they help us out. Well, Trump, they're like, oh, crap. Trump means business. Trump is going to hold us accountable. Trump is not going to let us get away with this. Well, we shouldn't allow anybody. Pete Hegseth, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Pete Hegseth was, accused of raping this woman who was married with her children and her husband in the hotel at the time. Her children and her husband were at the hotel with her while she was at this convention, getting drunk and flirting with Pete. We're on a first name basis, Pete and I, but flirting with him. And then when she knew that her husband was looking for her and she knew that she did something wrong, she was like, oh, crap, I have to say I was raped, because otherwise I just look like a whore. I look like a whore. I look like a person that has committed adultery, and I don't want that. And she said things were fuzzy. Well, she admitted she's been drinking. There is security camera footage of her willingly walking into his hotel room. There was no evidence of drugs. She said things were fuzzy. Well, things were fuzzy because she had been drinking. When you drink, things get fuzzy. But she was not drugged or carried into his hotel room. She walked there willingly. And things were fuzzy because she was drinking and he was drinking. They were both drinking. So like Matt Walsh says, and I agree with him, when they say, well, rape is because when someone's drinking, then they can't, their judgment is off. They can't make good, they have poor judgment. And so you can't have sex with someone and ask them for consent because they are drunk and they can't make good choices. Okay, well, so was he. So did she rape him? Why is it always, 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 always the man that's the asshole? Well, the woman, I'm a woman. I know how women can be. Women will show off their body parts, grind up against men, and flirt and put their hands on them and dance up against them and dress all slutty. And then be like, oh my God, he's touching me. Well, you were touching him. You were grinding up against him. You were wearing the clothes that showed you were open for people looking at your body. If you don't want people looking at your boobs, don't show your boobs. If you don't want people looking at your ass, don't wear super tight clothing that shows off your ass, or don't wear skirts that come right below your ass. If you don't want people to look at your body, don't wear provocative clothing and then go, don't look at my body. You want people to look at you or you wouldn't dress that way. And that's fine. If you want that, that's fine. That is up to you, totally up to you. If you have a body that you want to show off and you want people to look at it, great. But then don't be all shocked and odd when men or women look at your body because you're showing it off. Well, the same thing, if you're going to be grinding up against men and you're going to be putting your hand on a man and you're going to be flirting with a man and you're going to give them all the cues that you are open to some sort of relationship or some sort of sexual thing, Don't give those cues if you don't mean them. Now, I'm not saying that makes it okay to rape a person. Obviously, it's not okay to rape a person or to do anything unsafe or harming to somebody. I don't think it's okay for a man or a woman to rape or hurt or harm in any way someone just because they're dressed provocatively. My point is, she was drinking and so was he. They were both drinking. She was flirting and he could say the same thing. He could say, well, my judgment was impaired. She raped me. My judgment was impaired. She wanted to have sex and I tried to say no. We have no idea what happened behind closed doors. We don't know. For all we know, she attacked him. I get tired of it always looking like it's the man. There are a lot of women out there that go after men unprovoked and go after men and try to hit them and do hit them, punch them, scratch them, and hurt them. That's not okay. It's just as wrong as it is for a man to do to a woman. It is not okay to beat a man. It is not okay to crawl all over a man and be like, we're having sex, we're doing this, we're having sex. And if the man keeps saying no, 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 and then you just keep on going, come on, please, come on, aren't I pretty? Don't you find me pretty? Don't you think I'm gorgeous? Come on, let's have sex, as you're trying to undo his pants, as you're trying to straddle him, as you're trying to dance for him, as you're trying to take off your clothes. And you're like, come on, don't you find me pretty? Come on. You're being just as bad. It is just as wrong for you. Well, this woman was doing this while her children and her husband were in the exact same hotel. And then she knew that she was in hot water, so she had to make up this story. He was cleared from the story. But now his reputation is tarnished. And of course, social media and the news being what it is. Come on, guys, let's go. When they, of course, don't report the entire story. They don't report the facts. They just can't handle that Trump has people in place that they don't like. They don't like the people that are going to be in positions of power because they know the jig is up now. They know that they're going to be held accountable for misinformation. They know they're going to be held liable for their stories that are false and not true and not portraying facts, but just their own biased opinions. And all these branches of government are like, fuck, playtime is over. We're actually going to be held accountable. There needs to be more accountability. Men and women need to be held accountable for their actions. If there are people out there throwing out accusations with no proof behind it, the media should not be out there promoting that. Because again, a man cannot get rid of that. Once you post it all over, no one's going to remember the fact, wait, he was found innocent. And I hope her husband divorced her because she's a lying sack of shit and clearly an adulterer. Her children were there. She's not a good person and she clearly lies. And the media isn't going to tell you about that. People, again, they're already starting with Trump. It's already starting. He's not even the president yet. And we're already on Act 400 of putting him down and calling us names again. It's like, come on, get a new script. No one cares anymore, lefties. If you are listening, lefties, if you actually listen to my podcast, no one gives a fuck anymore. Call us names all you want. You've been doing it for 8 years. You have overplayed your exhausting, childish, ridiculous hand, and that's why Harris didn't win. That is why your precious little Kamala did not win, because we are sick and tired of the name calling. No one cares anymore. Your whole, oh, you're racist, you're transphobic, you're an adulterer, you're a rapist. Okay, you guys have called everybody that every single moment of the day. Why don't you look into your own fucking party, Bill Clinton? Why don't you look into your own party, Hillary, Obama, Biden, Epstein, Gates? Why don't you do some actual for real journalism, CNN, I don't think you guys know what people better not be calling you journalists because you aren't. But why don't you actually do some truth telling, do your homework, do some research, and look into your own party, and then you will actually see some rapists and some pedophiles and some disgusting, disturbing behavior, like loving abortion so much. You guys are just really into killing babies. And Planned Parenthood is very, very into selling baby parts. And the Republicans haven't done anything about it either. We're just as guilty. We haven't gotten rid of any of Planned Parenthood either. My point is, accusations, people need to be held accountable when they just go around pointing fingers like the Salem witch hunt. It'll stop if there's actual accountability. And that's what I like about the Trump administration. I like that he's putting Vivek and Elon and these people in place that are going to hold people accountable. And of course, now the Democrats are going to go around making accusations and starting the whole witch trial thing again. And it's like, really, we're still doing this. Can you just come together as a country and agree that taxpayers should not have to pay a fortune in taxes, that we want our economy to be a solid, we want to be a wealthy nation. We want to be a nation that welcomes in legal citizens that legally come here, that love our country so much they want to contribute to the country. They want to be part of the workforce. They want to contribute to it. We need to stop acting like being a lazy piece of crap is what we want. We need to come together and say, hey, all of those mooching off the government and not actually contributing need to go elsewhere. They can leave the country and we can fill it with legal citizens that want to actually be part of this country, that love this country, that are actually more patriotic than a lot of lefties that live here. Excuse me, goodness. Another phone call. Lordy. Every time I get these phone calls, then I never know. But basically, I was on a tangent of accountability. People don't want the Trump administration to come in because he's going to be mixing shit up. And now they're going to start doing the witch hunt and start calling names again and start accusing again. And it's like, come on, guys, 8 years of this and you haven't learned. Let's just come on. We need to come together as a country and we need to be on the same team. We have bigger fish to fry. There are people in other countries that want to see us plummet and off each other. They want to see us eat each other alive and ruin our country from within. And we're doing it. We're doing exactly what they want. They want to see us plummet ourselves into the sun because of our own stupid, childish bullshit. I mean, how many times can you call someone a bigot and a racist and a transphobe and say that they cheated and that they've raped somebody? And how many times can you accuse someone of Russian collusion and have them all be proven false, fake, not true before there's accountability for that? It wouldn't happen if people were held accountable. But the name calling and stuff, come on. It's old. No one gives a shit anymore. And that's why you lost the election. You lost the election because people in this country are tired of the childish crap. We're not going to put that above us losing our jobs and our economy and the border crisis and abortion. We actually have for real things going on in this country that we care about. We don't care about something that supposedly happened 8 years ago with somebody that was proven innocent and that was hearsay, but they were still found that there was no reason to believe that there was rape involved or that she was drugged. What we do know, what we can prove is that she is an adulterer. So, there's that. We can prove that. That's a fact. The fact that we should take away from this is that she is a bad person that cheats on her husband while her children and her husband are in the same hotel as she is. So we don't need to Amber Heard this thing. Okay. And we don't need to keep going around making another, 4 years now, 4 more years. We had 8 years. We don't need 4 years now of this witch hunt again. Stop. Just stop. Learn to say facts. Learn to do your research. Learn to educate yourself. Learn to shut your mouth if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. These are the things that make me crappy when I'm going about my business and I'm in a good mood and then I hear crap like this and I'm like, and then I don't want it to affect me because I don't want them to win. I don't want the left extremists to win. I don't want them to be the reason that I'm in a bad mood all of a sudden. So I got to shake it off. As much as I can't stand Taylor Swift, I do like the song Shake It Off. And it is true. So I am going to shake it off. So I hope wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can shake it off today. You can just be like, let them eat themselves. Let them, ruin themselves from within. And if they want to give themselves an ulcer and a heart attack from always being so, and calling everybody names and being angry all the time and setting things on fire and rioting all the time and doing a witch hunt, that's exhausting. And they're not getting anywhere. So let them do it. Let them do it. We have to be the bigger people. We have to be mature. And as annoying as it is and hard as it can be to be mature, we still need to do it. So, oh my gosh, I was just babbling along and it said that my phone was on low. But what I was saying was let them be, they're going to give themselves an ulcer and a heart attack and high blood pressure because they're just always angry and they're always rioting and always setting things on fire and always accusing people and on a witch hunt and constantly calling people names, and they're just angry, angry, angry. So let them be angry. Don't let it get to you. We, as hard and annoying as it can be to be mature and turn the other cheek, we need to do it because we can't let the lefties, the crazy lefties win. And we're letting them win when it bothers us. But it is frustrating when there isn't accountability. It is frustrating that they're already starting this again, calling names again. But we must rise above it and be like, really, you think that this is going to work? Because America has spoken and it hasn't worked. We wanted Trump, and we wanted Trump because we didn't want this childish crap anymore. So again, as much as I can't stand Taylor Swift, we need to shake it off. We do. We need to shake it off, turn the other cheek and rise above it. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope that you are able to shake it off. If you're going through it, I hope you can shake it off. Again, allow yourself the emotions. That's what they're there for. But then don't live in them. Go on a walk, listen to some music, punch on a punching bag, play a sport, draw, paint, whatever your outlet is. Play a board game with your kids. Do a puzzle. Go on a drive. Whatever your outlet is, we need to shake it off and rise above. Thank you so much for listening, by the way. I want to thank everybody, each and every one of you. You, and you, and you. Yes, and you. You in the back row. I'm talking to you. I appreciate every single person that has given me a shot and has listened to me one time or 40 times. I so appreciate everybody that is that's giving me a shot, that's giving me a chance. Thank you so very much. Tell a friend, tell a relative, tell a coworker, spread the news. Thank you, though. I appreciate you guys so much. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know sometimes family, we love each other. We do. But sometimes when we're around each other, we argue. If we talk politics, I know it gets heated. But again, we should be able to be mature adults. We should be able to have discussions. We should be able to respect each other and be respectful. So, why not talk politics? If you can do it, if we can be respectful, how hard is it? And if you can't, then don't. There are plenty of other things to talk about. There are millions and millions of topics that you can discuss besides politics. And I'm sure you can find one that you can get along, that you can find common ground. So happy Thanksgiving. I am focusing on being grateful and being thankful. And I appreciate you. I am thankful for everybody that has been listening. Until next time.